Question number 1, they gave you a linear equation, and they're asking what does x mean in terms of the context of this question. Well, in order to identify that, we can see that it's attached to the 22, which is an hourly rate. So based on the hourly rate of $22 per hour, we know that the only answer that makes sense is 2, the hours worked per week, because the number of hours times 22 is being subtracted from the 8,600. In number 2, it's first important to write the correct ratio that they gave you in the beginning, so 40 yards in 4.5 seconds. And from here on out, every single one of these individual ratios must be equivalent to 1. So 3 feet should be the same as 1 yard. 5,280 feet should be the same as 1 mile, and so on and so forth, which is all correct. But in order to get units to cancel, we have to multiply and divide by the same unit. So that means we have to have a unit in the numerator and denominator in order for that to cancel. So yards divided by yards would be equal to 1. The issue that I see that's happening next, however, is with this piece here. In order to get my feet to cancel, this 5,280 feet needed to be in the denominator. So here is my issue, making answer choice 2 the answer because it is written incorrectly. It should have been flipped. 1 mile over 5,280 feet would have been the correct ratio. We see this question appear a lot on the Regents where it says which equation has the same solutions as one of the equations that they gave you. And that means that we should be looking at the identical graph. So the easiest way to do this question would be to type in the original, of course without the equal 0, and then do the same thing for all 4 of the answer choices, and you would find out which graph laid right on top of the original graph. Now, of course, that's not the mathematically sound process, so we are going to obviously talk that through, because if this comes up on a part 2, 3, or 4, we need to know how to do it. So, factored form, double skeleton. Then I want you to graph it. And when we do that, we should see some type of picture like this, where we can definitely tell that one of the roots is that x is equal to 1. So immediately that tells me that x minus 1 was one of my factors. And just by process of elimination, I can actually just pick answer choice 4, because that's the only one that actually has the x minus 1 in there. However, let's talk through it all the way backwards. How do I get x times something to be 2x squared? Well, that would be 2x right here. And how would I get this -3 by multiplying -1 times +3? Question 4, we can see that this is an exponential equation, not just because of the 2% interest rate, which is a dead giveaway, but if we look at all of our answer choices, they're written as exponential equations. The first thing that we need to remember is that we always compare the 2% to 100. So I would typically write 100 plus the 2%. Now, if you look at all of the answers, you can see it's written as 1 plus 0.02. So what they did as the answer choices is they just wrote each the 100% as a decimal and the 2% as a decimal. But the reason why we're adding is because we know that we're earning interest. She's making money. So immediately answer choices 2 and 4 are gone, because that would show that she's losing money in her bank account. Now we have a starting value in all of them of $3,000, which is accurate to up above, but we have to be careful because she's only going to get this when she turns 2. So when she turns 18, that is not going to be 18 years after all is said and done. That will be 18 minus the 2 that she started with, making answer choice 1 correct. When we are looking for a linear relationship, we are looking for a constant rate of change between all of the point values. I love that all of my x's are increasing by 1 every single time. This is going to make this very easy for me to identify using my y's. So to get from -3 to -2, I added 1. In order for this to be linear, I'd have to add 1 again, which I didn't, so answer choice 1 is out. If I look at answer choice 2, when I'm adding down the table, 1/2 plus a half would get me 1. So I'd have to add a half on to get 1 1/2. Ruh-roh. That looks like it's exponential. It looks like I have a multiplier. Answer choice 3, to get from -3 to -1, I added 2. I added 2, I added 2, I added 2. Therefore, answer choice 3 is correct. And number 4 is also out. That appears to me that it looks something like a quadratic equation because of the turning point that I see at 0, 0. Number 6 is talking about the domain. So the domain is the in, and the range would be the out. So the input is a domain. So what are we putting in and what are we getting out? So here it's saying it predicts the number of devices, and it's in terms of the number of people. So if I know the number of people, I can find out the online devices. So it appears to me that I'm putting in, this is my domain, this is my out or my range, my x values and y values. So the number of people, well, I can't have negative people, so let's eliminate all of those number sets. So integers have negatives, irrational numbers have negatives, rational numbers have negatives. Hey, what do you know? Whole numbers is what's left. So 0 people, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. That all makes sense. In question 7, all we need to do is solve this inequality. You might be stressing out because there's a fraction, but remember, I just find a common denominator. This one's super easy because there's only one denominator, which is 3. So let's multiply everything by 3. Notice how everything gets multiplied by 3 except for this 2, because 3 divided by 3 became the 1, the whole point of why we're multiplying everything by 3. Next, let's sort. Then group together your like terms on either side. Then divide both sides by -5. And because we divided both sides by a negative, the inequality sign flips. Therefore, we end up not with answer choice 3, but answer choice 1. We should first identify in number 8 that we are looking at an exponential decay question. And the reason why I know that it's exponential is because of the exponent. The reason why I know that it's decaying is because this number here is smaller than 1. This is 86%. So every single year, we're losing 14% of the car's value. But it's asking us how much more is a car worth after 2 years than after 3. So we need to figure out how much it's worth at 2 years and how much it's worth after 3 years, and just find the difference between the two. So here is what we come up with when we substitute in 2 and 3 into our function and just simplify. You can basically type this entire thing into your calculator and that entire thing into your calculator to get these two output values. Then we need to figure out the difference, so let's subtract them. And we end up with $2,588.60, rounded to the nearest dollar would be answer choice 1.